What's up, everybody? I'm going to give you the rundown on how much money comic creators actually make and clearly answer the question, do indie comic creators make good money? And stick around until the end of the video because I'll give you some insights on how you as a creator can stand out from the crowd, because the truth you're going to learn is a hard pill to swallow. So I'm Lord Max. I'm a best-selling comic creator, film producer, and owner of Hove and Crow Entertainment. And if you want to learn how to make money as a writer, filmmaker, artist, and comic creator, you've come to the right place. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to break down the industry size. And what I'm talking about here is the direct market. This is comic shops, and so this is floppies, issues that are sold through comic shops, mainly in the North America. So I'm not talking about bookstores. I'm not talking about manga. I'm talking about comic books and in the direct market. And I'm also not talking about overall IP or movies and graphic novel sales. I'm strictly talking about raw comic sales through the direct market, comic shop market in the United States, and North America. And there's some that are in Europe and things like that. But so I'm going over kind of a general rundown. These are general, rough numbers. These aren't exact, but it together, when you see the big picture I'm trying to make, you'll see that I'm fairly close here. So right now I'm going over the size of the industry, and I'm phrasing this based upon like the ocean. So if you see the entire direct market is the ocean, the big two, which are Marvel and DC, I'll call the big whales, and they together account for about 60% of the industry. That's a rough, you might look into it and be like, it's actually more like 55 or something like that. But in general, kind of the way I'm trying to showcase this here is just to show how much those two publishers account for everything. When you go to a comic shop, 60% of the shop is Marvel and DC books. That's kind of what I'm trying to showcase here. The next level down is what the great whites I call, and these are your mainstream indies. So this is Image, Dark Horse, IDW, Boom. You can shuffle around a few others into this category, but together those account for another 30%. So just those two, the great whites and the whales together, account for the majority, almost 90% of the books that are out there. The next level down, the sharks, the smaller indies, like this is your Dynamite, Sumerian, Titan, Oni, Valiant, and then once again you can shuffle around a couple other names that rise and fall out of these categories, but those together in this category probably account for another 8%. And then when you finally get down to like the last 2%, I'd say almost a whole 1.5% account for the fish, and these are your small house indie press publishers, and this is where the most of the publishers fall. So the most publishers, so I'm going to name a lot of names here, like Scout, Vault, AWA, Aftershock, Humanoid, Xenoscope, Fantagraphics, Black Mask, Ahoy, Ablaze, SourcePoint, Red 5, Mad Cave, and there's dozens more. All of those together probably only account for about 1 to 2% of the entire industry that's in the shops. That's how small indies really are. And even below that, that's where you have like your Kickstarter indies. What I call the minnows, and that the minnow umbrella encompasses the majority of Kickstarter comics and creators who self-publish under their own creator label and brand. Now, just because they're minnows doesn't mean they can't make money. In fact, kind of the whole purpose of this video and my channel is to show you how it's possible as a fish and a minnow to make a lot of money in the comic book industry. So, what I'm going to showcase here is just because you're a minnow doesn't mean you can't make money, and just because you get published by a shark doesn't necessarily mean you'll make any money at all. But the whole point of this is I want you to really see and understand kind of the big picture of just, how much of, the market share some of these certain publishers take, and how a small slice of the pie the most of us are really in. And so, unfortunately, it's like a lot of us indie comic creators, we are fighting for just a small portion of the market. Um, and this creates a challenge for all of us. So now I'm going to break down how much a comic creator makes. So for the true professionals, so from like categories of sharks and above, they're making good money because they either have annual salaries or contracts with their company, or they're paid a solid page rate, and they've been around long enough to where that they can raise that page rate depending on the project or whatever. And both writers and artists usually charge probably 50 to 200 plus per page, inks alone, and they can go higher or lower, of course. Then colorists and inkers usually charge between 20 and 100 per page. Cover artists and elite celebrity status professionals might charge 500 per page, or even some 1,000 per page. And some, especially for covers, can exceed 2,000 per page. But you're really talking like true celebrities in the industry. On top of that, many artists charge for commissions, basically just fan requests for their sketches or their favorite characters. And then an artist can easily charge a few $100 for a sketch. You add this together, so professionals that are creating hundreds of pages at over 100 per page, as they're making hundreds of covers and hundreds of commission a year. They're usually looking at the upper five figures of an annual salary, and the elites, like true comic celebrities, they are making six figures. And if you've seen any of my other videos on like how to make $1 million with comics, like you'll see how that's possible, and it definitely is. So, with the exception of probably less than 10 creators, that are actually making that. But in general, you see, like, professional comic creators, it's not crazy for them to be making mid to upper five-figure annual salaries. Um, they're working a lot, but that's not outrageous. That's what a true professional comic creator is making, even like an indie or someone that's focused on creator-owned comics. However, on average, even the pros are simply making ends meet with a lower to middle class lifestyle, and they need to travel to comic cons and to make appearances, and to they basically are like a band. They're touring with their products and they have to sell them, and basically hustle and travel expenses, and those things can add up, and it's kind of what we all dream to do, but it's a real grind. And even when you do it really well, and those they're still true professionals, not all of them can't always make ends meet if your comics just aren't selling in a given year. It's just like any other kind of artistic profession. You can be riding high, like as a band, and then next thing you know, you're just or a comedian or something, and you just can't book shows. Same thing with like you're just, for some reason, your books aren't selling, your comics aren't selling. But anyway, the point I'm trying to get at is, for most comic creators, including the professionals, they have side hustles of their own, such as freelancing or for advertisers, or teaching at universities, or storyboarding for movies, or renting property, or writing for TV and things like that. And they kind of have a day job. That's just because they have a day job doesn't mean they're not a professional comic creator. But a lot of them, that's how they truly make a solid living in this space, is they have something else that's going on that's not strictly just trying to sell comics through the direct market. They have something else going on. But on top of all this, this is where I focus. There's IP, which is short for intellectual property. Creators of original characters and series, they earn royalties if any of their properties are turned into movies, shows, video games, toys, etc. And this is where creators can truly level up into real money territory. And this is for creator-owned material. And this brings me back to the indies. So before I get there, I'm going to need to break down the whole industry and the money it makes. So to paint a picture, I'll explain further with some rough estimates and a wide variance. As a whole, the comic book industry, in terms of comic book sales, makes about $1 billion a year. Once again, this is just an easy math number, although you'll notice if you look it up, this is actually still kind of quite close to reality. But for this video, I'm just giving it that even number, an easy to work with to do the rest of my math based upon kind of the whole whales, sharks kind of thing that I was going over earlier. So, of the billion truly independent comics, which consists of like 24 publishers or a bit more, they are all fighting for their share of about $20 to $30 million. of that billion. Because all in all, comic readers are giving 98% of their money to the biggest fish in the sea. When it comes to the true, like fish-sized dozen publishers, they are, fighting for just the measly billion. You could maybe say that goes up to 50 or 100, but still, out of the whole billion, it's a small slice of the pie. 700,000 going to the big two. 700 million to the big two, 200 million to the great whites, 80 million to the sharks. You're finally down to like 15 million for the fish. And less than 5 million for the minnows. Even amongst the indies, the dominant handful take the bigger slices of the pie. The bottom dozen indie publishers intermixed with self-publishing creators are all fighting for like the nasty lasty few $1,000,000 of the whole industry, except for a few kind of niche areas where you're getting people that aren't necessarily just into comics, or they're into your niche and they just happen to buy your comic because they're into that niche. That's like people into politics, or sports or whatever. And I think I've already made videos kind of on that concept, but I'll make more too as well, I'm sure, to kind of really drill it in. But so a few $1,000,000 may sound like a lot, but we're talking about dozens of companies and thousands of creators that are fighting for those few million. $20 million evenly dispersed amongst 1,000 creators averages to only about $20,000. That may seem like a nice check in your pocket at the end of the year, but just like the trends in all industries, the money flows to the top creators. So even that isn't evenly dispersed. So in reality, it's more like a few hundred creators made 20,000 or more, and everyone else didn't make anything at all. Like didn't break even, no profit whatsoever, or went into debt. And truly just like a hobby. It's you'll find this in everything. I think they call it something. It's like winner takes most, and that's just how it goes. It's just the truth. So luckily, I'm one of the creators that actually has made profit on my projects. So this next part I'm going to give you is basically like insights on how to do that. So number one, you want to find a great artist and make your own artwork unique. And style is more important than skill, I feel. Maybe not necessarily more important than like the skill, but when it comes to selling, the style or being unique is often more important than it just like the artist being a very skilled artist. You'll notice there's artists that just their styles are goofy, straight up. The being unusual looking or unique looking or distinct is often stands out more than just being good. If you're good, but it looks like everything else that's good, it's good for it. That works for its own thing. But if you're trying to stand out, it's important to have a stylized art. The next thing is you'll want to go for quality rather than quantity. So short graphic novels are better than long, bad epics. So it's better to spend your money on a shorter story than it is to try to make a big, instead of go for a high quality artist for a short 4-issue series rather than spending the same amount on a cheap kind of amateur artist, but that does black and whites on a longer story. That's I'll do a whole 15-issue arc, but with a bad artist. It's better to go shorter and better. That's the point I'm getting at. The other thing is you'll want to come up with a completely original and SEO friendly title. I am shocked at how often, to this day, even professional comics, I'm seeing books that are titled the exact same title as something else, or something that's so generic you would never find it. This is like you'll see books that are still just called like, bullet point, or just like, just super generic. Like it doesn't stand out at all, or is literally the exact same title as a famous movie. I will see books that's like, oh, it's titled Shutter, or Two Shot. Or I'm not thinking of good examples, but it's just like, come up with something original. And also try to do some decent SEO research, to and make sure it's like phonetically interesting. Um, it's just shocking at how kind of generic titles I see all the time, and I feel that that affects your sales. A title, I feel, and a cover, as we all know, especially with movies, like this is one of your most important things. You've got to draw someone in. Before they see the cover, if they hear a title that's catchy, you got them. And then they see the cover, and it's in a genre they like, and then you've almost got them. It almost doesn't matter what's inside. And then if they open up what's inside, and it's super professional and unique and interesting looking, it almost doesn't matter what the story is. It could have a terrible ending, and people can argue my books are like that. Like I draw you in. You know, follow all the steps except for the final one of having a great story. But I got you at everything else, so you get through it. I mean, arguably, I do believe it is a good story, but other people can say it's not. But I at least did everything else. The cover draws you in. The title is unique. The artwork is unique and high quality, and it's in a genre that you is recognizable and you like. Kind of things. And finally, I think the fourth thing is work on marketing promotion all the time before you even start creating the book. This is kind of why I'm making these videos right now. Is I discovered that I'm not doing anything outside of my own realm that can allow new people into my realm. I have my social media that I'm doing one thing with, but I wasn't doing anything regular posts or anything. I wasn't branching out in any realm. That's why I'm now making these videos, trying to merge different worlds into my own that I control. Anyway, so thanks for watching, everyone. I hope you learned something. If you like this, please leave a like and a comment so I can grow my channel to others like you. And if you're interested in learning more about creating comics or producing films, or in general are looking for practical and creative side gigs, just click the like, subscribe, check out my other videos, hit the bell so you can be notified and all that stuff. I know it's probably not even worth it to just go over this stuff, but that's what I'm doing. So, adios, everybody. Perfect timing. See ya.